Mom deserves the best, and there's no better place to shop for Mother's Day than Whole Foods Market. They're your destination for unbeatable savings, from premium gifts to show-stopping flowers and irresistible desserts. Start by saving 33% with Prime on all body care and candles. Then get a 15-stem bunch of tulips for just $9.99 each with Prime. Round out Mom's menu with festive rosé, irresistible berry chantilly cake, and more special treats. Come celebrate Mother's Day at Whole Foods Market.
You were listening to a Pleasure podcast. For more from our Sex Podcast Collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Welcome back to Private Parts Unknown, a podcast about love and sexuality around the world. I'm Courtney Kocak, and today, privates, we are dry humping. We are dating and fucking without getting fucked up, okay? And we have the perfect guest to guide us through a sometimes frightening prospect of being sober while doing this kind of stuff, really intimate relationship kind of building stuff. And our guest today is Tawny Lara. She wrote Dry Humping, a guide to dating, relating, and hooking up without the booze. It is such a good read, and there's so many good chapters. There's a chapter on dating yourself, on getting out there, emotional intimacy without alcohol, how to date someone who drinks, biochemistry, booze and bodies, sexual liberation without booze, handling trauma and PTSD, developing clear communication and booze-free arguing. Just so many good topics covered in this book. And I have to say, I think my favorite part is she calculates the financial costs of drinking and the energy costs of like how much time you can spend in a bar or just, you know, wasting your night in a blackout. So such a good topic. I think I have definitely cut back way back on my drinking as of a few years ago. I actually did a ton of drinking at the beginning of the pandemic. I think a lot of us were in that headspace of not knowing what was going on and not having very much structure to our lives and drinking way too much, self-medicating way too much. And I definitely reeled it in. And I hardly ever drink these days. And I think it is good for my relationship. And yeah, I hope this resonates with y'all too. Tawny is so much fun to talk to, so I think you're gonna love her. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tawny Lara, author of Dry Humping, a guide to dating, relating, and hooking up without the booze.
I'm excited to chat about this. I date a sober person, so yeah, we can talk about that for sure. But I guess let's just start out with when and how you realized you didn't want alcohol in your life anymore, at least at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. So I moved to New York in June of 2015, and I quit drinking November of 2015. So I share that just for like a little bit of backstory. I was a bartending party girl in Waco, Texas. Like, think of your stereotypical party girl. That was 100% me. I moved to New York in 2015 to pursue writing. On some level, I knew I had to get out of my bartending scene. I had to get away from my hometown. So I moved to New York, and 5 months later, I start to reevaluate my relationship with alcohol. And it was not a rock bottom moment, which is like, I think it's important to share that because a lot of us think that we have to lose everything before we reevaluate our relationships with a substance. And we don't. So I was actually in a pub one day with some friends talking about how I don't have time to write. And something clicked. As soon as I left that pub, I was like, I just spent 4 hours drinking, talking about how I don't have time to write. Maybe there's a connection there. And there was. Spoiler alert, there was. So that was really the impetus for me. And I haven't had a drink since.
Were you having, you know, like where you'll go out for a night and not remember what you say, or maybe have a regret about that? Or, I mean, you were having some negative repercussions, right?
Yeah. When I was a party girl bartender, I lived a very destructive, reckless, drunken life. And it wasn't just alcohol. It was, drugs. It
Mm-hmm.
was, I was abusing sex. I was abusing myself. Like I was just destroying. I was so reckless. Moving to New York and getting out of that bartending scene definitely helped because I was no longer in that space. And I made new friends when I moved here, friends that I met in writing classes and yoga classes. And I met people who drank normally, which was like wild to me. I was like, whoa, you guys stop at one? What is this? Yeah. So by the time I quit drinking, I was drinking significantly less,
Mm-hmm.
but there were times I would still drink until I blacked out.
Yeah. So I mean, when you were like, okay, I don't want to do this, it's going to help my writing. What were your first steps in sobriety? Like, was that hard? It sounds like you didn't do a program. And then was it just because you were a writer that you decided to document your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I love, I took the gonzo journalism approach of like, I'm putting myself in this story. I'm going to document
For
this
sure.
experience. I moved to New York actually to pursue music journalism. And I was in that space while I was also coming to terms with my relationship with alcohol. So I was not expecting this huge pivot to become a mental health writer. I mean, that
Mhm.
was so not part of the plan. But, it was 2015. This is like before Instagram was anything near what it is now. And blogging was like, that's where we were all doing the self-exploration that people are now doing on Instagram and these short form captions and reels. I was doing it on WordPress,
Mhm.
and I connected with really incredible people all over the world who, my story resonated with them and I could hear their stories. And, that was my, I've recently heard the term patchwork recovery,
Mm.
and meaning like a quilt, like putting together all these
Mhm.
different tools, like I didn't go to AA. I went to yoga and I learned how to meditate and I wrote and I took writing classes. And, that was what I now call a patchwork approach to my recovery.
I love that. Yeah. Very relatable, where you're just like, I have a problem. Let me interview everyone I know.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk sex with alcohol and then sex without alcohol. How is that different for you? And how is that just different, like on a kind of chemical level?
Yeah. I mean, there's the emotional side of, like when I quit drinking and I had to come to terms with the reasons that I drank, a big part of it was realizing that I struggle with relationships, just interpersonal relationships, like romantic relationships, friendships, family dynamics, coworkers. I didn't know who I was. I was trying to be a different version of
Mm-hmm.
myself. So just wanted to touch on that before we talk about sex because yeah, I think that's important. But so when it comes to sex, I really had to learn how to have sex and date all over again. Because, like I said, my whole life was in a bar. My hookups began in bars. My dates were I either met you in a bar or we ended our date at a bar. I mean, it was everything. My whole
Right.
social circle was about the bar. So I had to figure out how to do all of this all over again from square one. And for me, realizing the role that like I had body image issues, I had anxiety, I have PTSD, all of these things that I now have a proper diagnosis. And now that I have a diagnosis, I can look back on my, younger Tawny and give her some grace because she was self-medicating. She was
Mm-hmm.
in pain, Now I have proper medication and tools.
Right.
But all of that is to say, I was just such a people pleaser in the bedroom and on dates. Like I said, I had no idea who I was. So I tried to be whoever you wanted me to
Mm-hmm.
be. And the more I got to know that about myself, that also, like you said, shows up in my work, the types of questions that I ask as a journalist. When I was researching this book, I interviewed so many people, sober curious, still drink,
Mm-hmm.
all different types of people. And I'll tell you, the one thing everyone had in common was relying on liquid courage to feel more confident in the bedroom and on dates. And I want to talk about the liquid courage angle because whether you drink alcohol or you're sober or whatever, everyone related to that, that needing to like activate this other persona. And that was so insightful for me to understand. And then, you know, that's like more of the emotional level. And then the scientific level of learning, like Brene Brown says, you cannot selectively numb emotions. You know, if you're drinking to numb your anxiety, you're also numbing your central nervous system, which means you're not feeling pleasure as much as you could feel. And that was just truly mind blowing to me because I was of the mindset that drunk sex is better, you know? And when you really look at the science and you look at how the body works, it's actually not. And that just blew my mind.
Yeah. So one of my favorite parts of the book is that you interview people just across spectrums. And also I feel like very accepting of like wherever you are on your sobriety journey, which, you know, even if you're just curious. And I think what's so hard about the drinking and the dating is that we're swimming in it. It's like our cultural norm is drinking. So it's almost like you have to, the opt-out is more complicated. You have to be a lot more creative.
I like that, the opt-out. Yeah. And it's like, no one asks, like if you decide to stop doing Coke, no one's going to be like, well, why?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing Coke? But it's like, if you do dry January, it's like, why? Why?
Don't you want to have fun?
That?
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some sober dating tips without liquid courage? How did you get creative? And I think you hit pause first for a while before dating. Is that right?
I did. Yeah. I was single for 2 or 3 years before I met my now husband. And the first chapter of my book is called Dating Yourself because like any dating book will tell you, you have to figure out, you have to fall in love with yourself before someone else is going to fall in love with you and before you can genuinely fall in love with someone else. I know that I'm not the first person to give that advice, but I will say what makes that chapter unique is that it's specifically finding out who you are outside of your relationship with alcohol. And again, you don't have to be sober to do this work. You could be an active drinker and still do this work. So I think it's important to start there. Figuring out why you're reevaluating your relationship with alcohol is essential if you do want to go down the mindful dating, intentional dating path, right? So for me, you know, dating myself meant, you know, I took a lot of classes. Like I said, I did yoga teacher training. I studied comedy writing. I studied improv. I studied Spanish. And I learned that feeling smart made me feel more confident. Who would have thought, you know?
That's so funny.
So it's once I spent a lot of time doing these things that I always said I wanted to do, I found that I was more comfortable and more confident on dates because, like I said, feeling smart made me feel more confident, more sure of myself. I had interesting things to talk about on a date as opposed to when I was dating as a drinker, I was trying to be whoever you wanted me to be. So I didn't really know what I brought to the table. Now I know what I bring to the table. And now I also know what I want out of a relationship. So I think even if you are in a relationship and then you decide to stop drinking, I think that that chapter is still super important of figuring out who you are without alcohol.
Yeah. What are some good, you know, it sounds like the classes too, that gives you a place to meet people, but you're not going to go to the bar or, you know, maybe you will, but that's a less likely sober date. What kind of good sober dates would you recommend?
You know, I'm a big fan of experiential dates. And by that, I just mean anything that is an experience or an activity. So go to a museum, go bowling, don't sit in a coffee shop, go get coffee and go for a walk. For several reasons, one of which, like dating is awkward, like it fucking sucks. Let's be real. So if you can move your body, you are actually getting some of those anxious jitters out. So that can actually like relieve anxiety right there. But also if you're just sitting at a coffee shop staring at each other, it's still kind of like grabbing a drink where there's not really an activity. You're just like, where are you from? What do you do for a living? Whereas an experiential date, if you're at a museum, you guys are looking at this piece of artwork and you're talking about what comes up for you, and it's more present.
Mm-hmm.
You're connecting in this moment as opposed to like trauma bonding and just dumping all of these emotions on dates, which a lot of us tend to do.
Totally. Oh my gosh, privates, I have to tell you about a sponsor I am freaking obsessed with, really and truly. Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals make eating better every day easy. And listen, I need it to be easy. They deliver pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals right to your door. They give you over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more. I am obsessed with the protein version. And there's even more to enjoy with over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help make your weekly meal planning even more delicious. What are you waiting for? Get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go. You guys, you don't even understand. This checks all the boxes for me. The meals only take 2 minutes to get ready, actually 2.5 in my microwave, but 2.5 is nothing. The meals are not frozen. They come to you fresh and they are so delicious. Both my partner and I have just been gobbling them up. Wade was like, oh my God, this chicken is like so good. And that's true. Like I had the smoky Gouda chicken with 40 grams of protein and it was so friggin' good. They also have snacks, smoothies, and more. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. And it actually saves you money. Factor is less expensive than takeout. It's actually less expensive than the frozen meals that I buy at my local grocery store, which I was shocked by. I was like, are you telling me I don't even have to go there? They're going to ship it to me and it's less per meal? It's seriously, Factor is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast, upscale options done easily. And it's flexible for your schedule. You get as little or as much as you need by choosing 6 to 18 meals per week. Plus, you can pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Factor meals are 100% ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleanup needed. This is so my style, you guys don't even understand. And it's gonna be your style too, because all you gotta do is head over to factormeals.com/private50 and use code private50 to get 50% off. What? There's seriously no risk to trying this. You're getting an incredible deal. So use code private50 at factormeals.com/private50 to get 50% off. You guys, you have to try it. I have been eating this stuff nonstop for a couple weeks and it is so, so good. So one more time, head on over to factormeals.com/private50 and use code private50 to get 50% off. And honey, we are going to be eating the exact same thing. Well, actually not, because they have so many different options. Anyway, enjoy. Bon appetit. Hey privates, ever wish you could use deodorant on your feet or before intimacy to freshen up below the belt? Which, let's face it, sometimes we get stanky down there and you just feel so much more confident initiating if you feel fresh. I know you know what I mean. And that is why I'm so excited to tell you about Lumi Whole Body Deodorant. Unlike certain other deodorants, Lumi is powered by mandelic acid to deliver outrageous 72-hour odor control everywhere from your pits to your feet, and yes, even your privates. In fact, it was patients' concern about private part odor that originally inspired the OBGYN who invented Lumi. Fast forward 6 years later, and her game-changing whole body deodorant has now earned over 300,000 5-star reviews. What? That's a huge number. From people like me who love feeling confident from head to toe, and yes, that involves the middle part. And if you are new to the Lumi fam, I have a special offer for you. New customers get $5 off Lumi starter pack with code PPU at lumideodorant.com. I freaking love Lumi. I love the solid stick deodorant. I have the clean tangerine and the toasted coconut, and smells so good. The lavender scent is amazing. I love the body wash. I love the wipes, which are great if you are traveling or you are out on the go and you need to freshen up, maybe after the gym if you are in a rush and don't have time to shower. Lumi is just the best. And it's seriously safe to use anywhere on your body. It is truly whole body deodorant. That means pits, underboobs, thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks, vulvas, and feet. It's baking soda free and paraben free. It's pH balanced for safe use below the belt. So Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. What? I freaking love free shipping. And as a special offer for Private Parts Unknown listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code PPU at lumideodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit lumideodorant.com and use code PPU. And I promise you, privates, you are not going to be smelling pew anymore, okay? So check it out, lumideodorant.com. Let's talk about alcohol and sexuality, because you discovered your bisexuality while sober. Explain how that went down and what else you found in your research with alcohol and sexuality.
Yeah, I love this question. I think acknowledging the intersection of substance abuse and the queer community is super important. So I love any chance to talk about it. I knew that I was attracted to men and women when I was young. I remember vividly, I was 14 and I saw the Lenny Kravitz music video for Again. And I saw him and Gina Gershon and I go,
amazing.
I want to make out with both of them, you know? And I had dated women, but I didn't feel like I was bisexual enough. I felt like, well, all of my long-term relationships are with men. So does that really count as bisexual? And it was just one of those many things that I kind of put to the side. And I was like, I'll deal with that one day. Mm-hmm. So getting sober gave me the chance to actually deal with that and learn about bisexuality and learn that it's not a 50-50 split. It can mean so many different things. And so that meant so much to me to really own the term bisexual and really claim that. Felt like such a huge moment of pride. And also just learning the fact that queer people experience substance use disorder at significantly higher rates is, I think, something that we all need to talk about. And there's even a section in the book about how the gay bar does a disservice to the queer community, right?
I thought that was so interesting. That's not what you expect. It seems like this place to congregate, but yeah. That was interesting.
Yeah. And it is, it's like one of those both things can be true, right? Where it's like the gay bar is a place where you can find your people and it can create community and so many wonderful things can come from that. And when you are introducing yourself to alcohol and drugs at the same time that you're learning about your gender identity and your sexuality, it can get really messy. And I interview people in the book who talk about how getting sober, figuring out their gender identity and sexuality without substances was one of the most difficult parts of their recovery.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So this topic, totally relevant for me, how to date someone who drinks. So my partner got sober during the pandemic and I still drink. I'm like I'm not a problem drinker at all.
You're a normie.
I am a normie.
Call you a normie.
I have other things, but not that. But, I wouldn't want us to break up over that. So what have you found? Like, how can you be a mixed couple?
I love this question. There's a whole chapter in my book about this exact question because I get it all the time. How do I date someone who drinks? My partner just quit drinking. How can I be supportive? Mm-hmm. I'm dating. Can I date someone who drinks alcohol? So like there's so much in this subject. And I would say one big thing is, asking them how you can be supportive.
Mm-hmm.
This is just allyship. This is like sober folks need allies too. How can I be your ally? How can I support you? Is a wonderful way to approach it. I also think when you host a party, have non-alcoholic options. If you're picking the restaurant, make sure that they have non-alcoholic options. And also asking your date or your partner if they're even comfortable going to restaurants that serve alcohol, because they may not be, and they may go only to placate you. So, as probably the journalist in me, my answer is just ask questions.
Totally.
Because everyone needs something different. I recently went to a friend's birthday party and it was in a bar. And I feel comfortable in a bar, but a lot of sober people don't. I think it's because I bartended for so long. It's just like, yeah, whatever. But I went to this bar and she had buckets of Corona, and then she had a couple buckets of non-alcoholic beer.
Oh, nice.
And I told her, I was like, Amy, this is so fucking cool. It was like, I don't have to be the weirdo who asks for a non-alcoholic beer. You already have this option. And I was not the only one who drank it. People want options. Lots of people are interested in non-alcoholic drink options. I learned a statistic today. 94% of people who purchase non-alcoholic drinks still drink alcohol. So all that's to say, I think it's important to provide options and ask how you can be supportive.
Totally. And so you have been able to maintain that sober relationship with booze. There was no rethinking that later?
I've thought about it, of course, where a big part of recovery is there's a misconception where people think sobriety just means you don't drink alcohol. That's actually like the smallest part of it. It's doing a significant amount of work to figure out why you drank in the first place, finding healthy coping mechanisms, therapy, figuring out your mental health diagnosis. So it's like, once you figure all of that out, alcohol doesn't have the same appeal to me. I truly have no desire to black out anymore. In my book, I say, I've never said that I'm never drinking again. I would never say that. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll find that I want one beer, who knows? But again, it's like, with such great non-alcoholic drink options, like I don't feel like I need that. There's really good craft beer without alcohol in it now. So no, I've accidentally taken a couple sips. I've ordered non-alcoholic beer and been served regular beer, and my husband was like, "That's a regular beer," and I was like, "Oh, all right, well." So it's like some stuff like that has happened, but no, I feel. Today I'm okay. It's one day at a time.
Totally. So, I think a lot of people feel that way. More people today are sober curious. So what would you say? I know you did like a patchwork approach, but you have discovered so many resources. Your book is one of them. I loved all of it. There's a chapter on alcohol and sexual trauma. I just think that it's such a good resource. But what else have you found? And what advice can you give to people who might be just thinking about it today?
If you're listening and you're thinking about possibly reevaluating your relationship with alcohol, I would look at it as just that. Don't label it. Don't worry about like, am I sober? Am I sober curious? Am I in recovery? Like, what is this? I would just look at it as, I'm just reevaluating my relationship with alcohol, and let it reveal itself to you. Just being more mindful of the moments that you do want to drink. Really sit with that for a minute. Before you grab that beer from the fridge, just sit with it for a minute. Why am I grabbing this beer? Am I trying to escape reality in some way? Do I just want a beer? Is it just good? Do I just want a beer at the end of the day? There's no wrong answers here. So I think it's just really figuring out what your relationship is with alcohol. And I think another really big thing for me, I kept comparing my relationship with alcohol to other people's relationship with alcohol. And that kept me drinking a lot longer. And by that, I mean, if I thought about not drinking, and then I would see someone who acted a certain way when they drank, I'm like, oh, well, at least I don't do that. At least I don't treat people this way. At least I don't drive drunk. I had all these reasons. So that thinking kept me sick. And so once I stopped comparing my relationship with alcohol to other people's relationships, I was able to actually see it for what it was. And for me, I found it to be problematic. Some people don't think that my relationship with alcohol is problematic. And that's another weird thing that you're going to get. A lot of people are going to have opinions on your relationship with alcohol. So I would just give yourself grace and be as mindful as you can.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share?
You know, one of the most common questions that I get in my line of work is like, how do I feel more confident in the bedroom or on a date without alcohol? I would say that giving up alcohol or just reevaluating your relationship with alcohol is one of the most badass things that you can do, because it shows that you care about yourself. It shows that you care about your health, you care about your future, and it takes a significant amount of confidence to make a decision like that. So I would just encourage you to bring that confidence into the bedroom with you. Bring that confidence onto a date with you.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Tawny. Oh my gosh, she is a gem. And yeah, I hope this, made you just reflect on your own relationship with alcohol, whatever that might be. One of the best parts about Dry Humping, I think, is just how inclusive and open it is about wherever you are on the spectrum and whoever you are. So I love that. And I definitely recommend picking it up if you are rethinking your own relationship with alcohol amidst dating and relationships and sex and all that stuff. And thank you for tuning into this episode of Private Parts Unknown. Stay tuned right here because I have got another sexy episode coming your way next week. For the latest episodes, look down and make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast player now. To stay in touch between episodes, follow me at Courtney Kocak. That is Kocak on Instagram and Twitter. And follow the show at Private Parts Unknown on Instagram and at Private Parts Un on Twitter or X, whatever. Whatever, Elon. And hey, baby, I am shamelessly trying to hit the top 1% on OnlyFans always and forever. So if you are interested in a Playboy style peek behind the podcast, you can subscribe to my OnlyFans account. It is onlyfans.com/CocoPeepShow. It is a very horny way to support the show. If you ever wanted to see these titties, okay, you can join me on OnlyFans. It is onlyfans.com/CocoPeepShow. The OnlyFans really helps keep this show alive, so I appreciate all of my horn dogs. And of course, subscribe to our newsletter. It is privatepartsunknown.substack.com. There is a link for that in the episode description. And subscribe to the Private Parts Unknown YouTube channel for a video version of a bunch of episodes. It is youtube.com/privatepartsunknown. That is youtube.com/privatepartsunknown. And check out my other podcasts for more of my audio creations. I have The Bleeders about book writing and publishing, and Podcast Bestie, which is a best friend to podcasters trying to grow and monetize their shows. Shout out to Amy Rausch for the bomb-ass theme music. For more info about Amy and her music, check out amyrausch.com. That is Amy, RAASCH.com. This episode was mixed by my beloved audio guy, Michael Castaneda of Plastic Audio. And after enjoying this content, could we ask you for a quick favor? Just go to ratethispodcast.com/private and give us a 5-star rating and review. I have to say, we are a little bit constipated when it comes to reviews. Lately, it's been several weeks and we are stuck on 285 ratings on Apple Podcasts, and we haven't had a new review in a bunch of weeks, and we are stuck on 142 ratings on Spotify. So, privates, I need your help. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review with what you love about the show. And if you are listening on Spotify, go to that little 3-dot hamburger sign and rate the show that way via our page. You can rate and review us from anywhere by just going to ratethispodcast.com/private. Again, ratethispodcast.com/private. It keeps me going, privates. Okay, we need these. So you've got your marching orders. And oh, hey, there is one more way you can help support the show. We are now on the Fountain app. So if you are listening on Fountain or another V4V platform and you get value from this show, you can support us by sending a boostagram or sending us some sats for streaming. You can even send a comment along with your boost. And I have to say, those are my favorite messages to get because they come with a little bit of Bitcoin. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Love you, privates.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.